Matt. Hey everybody, it's the first day of rifle season in North Carolina, and it's real cold this morning. It's warmed up a little bit, and while I had a minute, I wanted to share something with you. It's the week of Thanksgiving, and I believe a lot of times what affects our attitudes and our quality of life is having a heart and a mind of thankfulness. And I believe when we forget the things that we're thankful for, when we allow things of the world to get that out of our mind, when we're not thankful for things no more, I believe that's what affects our attitudes and just basically our quality of life. We celebrate Thanksgiving this week, and I know it seems like a lot of things that our nation has forgotten. I believe one thing we have forgotten is we're pushing Thanksgiving to the side and going straight to Christmas. Hopefully I'm not the only one that feels that way. But I got to thinking, in Sunday school at church this week, we had a lesson about the children of Israel crossing the Jordan River. And I love the lesson. I'm going to share it with you. God had brought the people of Israel out of Egypt, had crossed the Red Sea, He had parted the Red Sea, He had done all these things for them. He had fed them and kept them going. And they come to the Jordan River, and they cross the Jordan. And as soon as they touch the banks of the Jordan River, the water stops flowing. God says, I'm going to stop the water. Joshua, you and your people is going to cross on dry ground. So they cross the river, and Joshua says, when we cross the river, I want one man from each tribe to go back where it's dry and the water's not flowing and get a stone, one stone per person, and bring it back, and we're gonna stack them up in a pile. So they do this. One man from each tribe grabs a rock, puts it on his shoulder, takes it to the bank, and they make a stack of rocks. And it's to symbolize to the people in the future and for them to look at that stack of rocks, and it's a reminder for them to know what God had done and what God had brought them through. A reminder. They could look at that in the future, and their kids could look at that in the future and go, God parted the Red Sea, He brought us out of Egypt, and now He brought us across the Jordan. I get to thinking about those old Western movies, where the hardest thing they done in the Western movies, one of my favorites is Lonesome Dove. It's the best movie ever. I'll debate you on that. But the hardest thing they ever had to do was cross rivers. It was an obstacle. It was a hard thing for them, so this was a big deal. But this stack of rocks was a symbol of thankfulness. They could look at this and go, look what God has done for us. Look what God has brought us through. This is a symbol to show that. Here on my property and in a lot of these Appalachian mountain regions, when some of these old farmers, they would plow their gardens, and when they'd run into rocks, I feel like sometimes in these mountains we grow rocks, if you've ever farmed any much. When they'd take the rocks off their gardens, they would carefully stack and build walls to make boundaries on their properties, or just pretty beautiful rock walls. I look at those rocks and I think about all the hard work that was put in to do that, and I'm sure a lot of farmers can look back and say, look, this property, my family was fed, so on and so on, when they look at those rock walls and remember the hard work and how God provided for them. Again, I'll say that I believe our nation, one of our biggest problems with everything from the leadership in our nation all the way down to everyday life of everyday person, we forgot how to be thankful for something. We forgot what God has given us and God has blessed us with. We all have those stacks of rocks. Every person in our life has those piles and piles of rocks, of individual things that God has blessed us with. And the one rock that creates the whole foundation for the wall that in our life, the wall of rocks, is Jesus Christ and the sacrifice that He gave. On that rock is our whole hope and joy and peace. Our whole life is founded on that one rock. And all the other rocks in our life are the things that God has provided for us. When we forget that, we lose the quality of life that God wants for us. God wants us to have abundant life, but we have to remember to be thankful for what God has brought us through and what God has given us. I thought I'd share this with you all. I want to start getting quiet again, but on this Thanksgiving week, be thankful for what God has given us, what God has provided for us, our families, food, jobs, cars, the breath of life that we breathe in every second, friends, families, health to be able to do the things of life. Be thankful for those things, but most importantly, be thankful for the sacrifice of Jesus Christ and the abundant life that He gives in a relationship with Him.